And Nyla, I just want to make sure, have you started recording? Yes, you have. Amazing. Thank you. All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming. We always enjoy seeing you and having our families join us for these sessions. So for those who may be at their first Lunchbox Connections, or just as a reminder, Lunchbox Connections are an opportunity to connect with us as VCU Family Programs, but also with other university offices, and learn about those resources and how to support your student through that resource. And then, of course, ask questions. And so obviously it's a small group, so no pressure. If you don't have any burning questions, we won't force you to ask any, but if you do have any, please use this time to your advantage. Samara is prepared to answer questions should you have them. And you can use the chat or unmute, whatever you're most comfortable with. And so just to go over some ground rules before we get started, if you aren't speaking, we just ask that you stay muted. Sometimes that happens on accident, where we hear, especially if you're at work, people behind you in the background. It can just be a little distracting, so just be mindful of that. If you do have questions, whether throughout the presentation or at the end, feel free to raise your hand using the raise your hand function, or you can always submit it in the chat at any point, should you have it. And even if we don't get to your question right away, we will answer it at some point whenever Samara has a break in speaking or towards the end of the session. And then let us know if you need anything. You can put it in the chat. You can direct message myself or Nyla directly. But if you need anything, let us know, and then respect each other, of course, as always. And then lastly is participate as much as you are able and comfortable. So for today's session, we're going to be talking about how you can help your RAM get career ready. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself, but my name is Kenley Andrew. I'm the coordinator for Family Programs and Services. And I'm super happy to welcome Samara Williams, who's the Executive Director of VCU Career Services, to talk a little bit today about career services. Oh, I don't know where I got Williams from. I'm so sorry. Samara Reynolds. I don't know, sometimes our brains just don't do the thing that you want them to do. I sincerely apologize, but I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing so you can take over.
All right. Maybe that was another presenter in recent days. You all have a lot.
I think that it was, and I just didn't change it.
Quite all right. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get all set up so I can see all the questions that come through on chat and such as well. So bear with me for just a moment. Okay. All right. I think we're in good shape. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Samara Reynolds. I am Executive Director of VCU Career Services. And I was very happy today to be invited to present on helping your RAM get career ready. So we're going to cover quite a bit of ground today in a short time. But again, the session is being recorded, so you can watch it and review it. I will give you opportunities for questions at the end, but certainly feel free to pop things into the chat or do the raise hand function. And I will give you ways to connect with our office at any time that things come up after this session as we close today as well. So the topics that I have in mind, I'm going to give you a light overview of VCU Career Services, just in case that's something that is new to you or your students. We're going to focus on how your student can develop career readiness skills. This may be a term, career readiness, that you've heard, but we're going to really break it down, talk about how not only can they develop those skills, but how you can encourage them on that front. We will cover a number of key resources that your students can access that will support their career readiness and their career development process. And then certainly, like I said, we'll open for some Q&A. So without further ado, first I want to cover what career services at VCU help students with. Three different things come to mind. The first is career exploration. So oftentimes students will feel like they have to have their whole plan figured out before they engage with career services. They have to know what they want to do with their life. They have to really have something in mind. But we have not only team members, but lots of great resources that are all focused on career exploration, major exploration, to help them think about their interest, maybe parallel planning. Maybe they have a top thing they want to do, but giving them more and other options as well, to help them really think about what are their skills, their interests, their values, their personality, and how does that inform their best possible career choices as they move through their time at VCU and beyond. And we are here to help them to tap into not only the VCU network of alumni, fellow students, students, faculty and staff, peers, but also to think about how they can network with employers and industry professionals to start building their own professional network, to start managing those professional relationships in a way that they can use in their life well beyond VCU. The second piece, I think people often think of as our bread and butter. It's what individuals often think of career services for, and that is certainly helping your student with the job and internship search. So we can help them to connect with organizations that have jobs and internships already posted. We can help them think about where they might want to work and proactively reach out to organizations to see about jobs and internships, that hidden job network that is out there. We can help them with both the search process, the application process, and as we put here, the many different ways that they will be asked to translate and articulate their skills and experiences to employers. So resumes, cover letters, interviewing, thank you notes, presentations. We're really here for all of those pieces of the puzzle and anywhere that your student may need support. Additionally, students and their families are not always aware that we are here to support if a student's career path next step after VCU is for further education. If they're going on for a graduate degree or a doctoral first professional program, we are here to support that from start to finish as well, including the search process, the networking process, personal statements, application materials, and really helping them think through both their short and long-term career goals as they move through their time at VCU and as recent graduates as well. So those are the three things that we are really here to help students with, and I hope that that gives you some context for our discussion today and how we can be helpful throughout your students' experience. I happen to get to lead the VCU Career Services team. We're the central career center on campus. We serve all students, undergraduate, graduate professional, recent graduates across all majors on both the Monroe Park campus, the MCV VCU Health campus, and the Cutter campus for those students who reach out to us as well. And we're here to support students across the board, even if they drop in or come to our events, et cetera. But it is important for you to know, especially if your student is either a school business student or a College of Engineering student, that there are also satellite separate offices just for those students and those alumni as well. And so we are all well connected. We all use something called the handshake system, which I'll talk about in a little while, but important for you to know that those other centers exist as well. We also are really proud of our Career Champions program, which we launched back in 2021 and revamped and relaunched this past fall. But we have already 50 and growing faculty and staff members across campus that don't work for any of the career services teams, but have been trained and certified as VCU Career Champions through a specialty program that we developed and that we offer all throughout the year. So as your students engaging with their academic advisors, with their faculty members, with those who may work with their student organization, there are many individuals across campus that are ready and willing and able to help your student with their job and internship search, their career exploration process, and their networking as well. So I'm going to shift gears into defining career readiness. So career readiness is a term that was developed by our main professional association, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, or NACE. It's an organization that colleges across the university of all sizes and scopes across the university, across the nation, as well as employers in a number of different industries who focus in college recruiting. And so the human resources professionals, the recruiters on those teams are all part of the same organization so that we can share information, we can network, we can write and revamp policy and make sure that there is a pulse on the trends going on out there in the industry as well. And so NACE runs a survey and does research throughout the year, every year, to find out what are the skills that employers across industries are looking for in their new hires. So as they're doing this college recruiting, as they're bringing in new team members, what are the things that they really want and need? And often kind of how that varies between things that they feel like they can train once somebody arrives to them versus things that they really want to see as somebody is being interviewed and onboarded into the organization. Career readiness really is the foundation upon which a successful career is launched. So again, it has the college student in mind, but is really meant to be a foundation and information that can be used throughout the lifespan of the career. And it's comprised of a set of defined competencies and associated behaviors that will prepare college grads for success in the workplace. And again, that lifelong career management. So it's something we are taking strides to teach students while they're here and bring that language to the forefront for them. And that we want you to know and understand and be able to utilize as families and support for those students. But it's something that we know that they will engage with in many different ways across their career. So there are 8 different career readiness competencies. And as you read these, some of these terms will probably look familiar because they are those essential skills that we often want to see, whether we are working on a team ourselves, whether we're doing hiring, things that we may be encouraged to develop as we grow in our careers. But they are career and self-development, communication, critical thinking, equity and inclusion, leadership, professionalism, teamwork, and technology. And we'll talk a little bit about what those look like, but you can find those full definitions for each of the competencies on the NACE website. It also breaks each of them down into sample key behaviors. So again, a lot of students are going to see the word teamwork and they're going to say, oh yeah, I've played on an athletics team or I've done team projects. Got it, check mark. But when it comes to translating that into an employment space, there are really some of these key behaviors and ways they can talk about it in their documentations and their interviews to really translate that into a professional space and to see maybe where they have room to grow as well. I put here a chart for you, which is again coming from NACE, of all the different 8 career readiness competencies. They also dug in and had employers rank most important to least important, even within these top 8 that we all understand are important. And I often will take that to mean, again, most important that they need to see early to be able and willing to hire somebody and have them be successful versus things they may be willing to train on when they arrive. So again, important, but that they may have infrastructure and ability to grow with someone with an organization. So if you look at the colored chart here, there is kind of goes from dark blue to light blue to gray and even into yellow as more the most important side of the chart. And so if you look at those colors combined, you'll see critical thinking, communication, and teamwork really stand out among the top 8 as things that are truly most important for employers to see as they're thinking about hiring new individuals onto their team, where you'll see with the more pinks, orange, green, and purple into the more least important or more willing to be trainable. That comes down to those technical skills, certainly leadership, and someone maybe growing over time there. Even some of the pieces in career and self-development and knowing where you want to go and what your career might look like moving forward. Those are the things that often employers want to see there's a passion for, an interest in, a willingness to learn and to grow, but they don't necessarily need students, especially coming in, having those all ready to go off the bat. I think a lot of students will read a position description and see especially some technical skills on there and say, well, I don't know how to do that yet, so I probably shouldn't apply for that opportunity. When truly helping your student to think about, well, what are other technologies that they didn't know when they got to BC or that they didn't know when they started in their program that they have learned or developed? What are things that they have self-taught in the world of technology that they're perhaps not giving themselves credit for, but that they're bringing that mindset of learning as they go into a new opportunity? And similarly, how can they really think about examples, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, of critical thinking, communication, teamwork, that they can give some of those tangible examples and really have confidence in those areas, especially going into a new opportunity. All right, so developing and discussing career readiness skills. I've referenced this a little bit, but there are a lot of places that these skills can be developed, especially while a student is at BCU. Certainly one being in the classroom environment. Some of those skills, we have classes that have those words in the name. We also have lots of different curriculum that students, as they're evaluating classes they want to take, especially as they're moving through towards their senior year and towards graduation, that they can try to refine and take certain courses that might help to encourage certain skills that they want to feel more confident in. We don't want to undersell the value of student organizations and campus leadership roles. It's the idea that, again, that teamwork piece, the critical thinking, the communication, there's a lot that can be developed for students in student organizations or in their roles here on campus. That bridges into the part-time, full-time, or seasonal jobs, especially when it comes to the professionalism piece, and for students like showing up to work on time, showing that you take pride in your work, knowing how to work with other people, knowing how to deal with customers. All of those things I think that students often keep separate in their mind, the things that they're studying and the skills that they are gaining in practical environments, when really both and all often make for really amazing examples of how they are showing an employer they can be career ready for their next opportunity. That bridges into internships, volunteering, and other experiential learning. Those are all places that these skills can be developed, and especially, again, if they can choose experiences or try to work with their supervisor or their colleagues in those experiences to try to refine certain skills. So where and how can these skills be articulated? I've mentioned this slightly, but resume or CV. So as a student is applying for an opportunity and submitting that documentation, I would encourage them to think about those 8 skills, and are those words listed somewhere in their resume, especially if they're seeing those words in the job description as keywords and qualifications, really not overthinking it, trying to put those words right into the documentation so that people who are looking for those skills can find them. The same goes for cover letter, especially if there is perhaps a way that they have defined or refined a particular career readiness skill, but it may not be very tied to a particular experience that they've cited in length on their resume. A cover letter is where you can say, here's a little bit more about who I am. Here's why I'm interested in this role and why I think I'm a good fit. And they can really bridge that gap for the hiring manager. Personal statement, just like with cover letters, if they're writing that for a fellowship, if they're writing that for a graduate or professional program, they can bring those career readiness skills and how they're bridging, again, the academic environment with the profession that they are trying to prepare themselves for in the future. And interview answers as well. I will share with you in a little bit a tool that we have around interview practice, but oftentimes if we boil down a lot of interview questions that organizations ask, they come back to these 8 career readiness skills. Give me an example of a time you worked on a team to accomplish a goal. Give us an example of a time when you had to communicate in a high stakes situation. Tell me about yourself, that kind of big umbrella question that really does take those communication skills, but also as a chance to highlight some of those career readiness skills outright. So these are all places that these will show up and should show up for your students. And last but not least is LinkedIn profile. So again, there's both ways to weave that into their discussions of how they talk about their experiences. They may well copy and paste right from their resume into their LinkedIn profile, but they also have a summary at the top, they have a title at the top, and they have a chance to pick and choose skills that they want to put right on their LinkedIn profile. So then the recruiters from different organizations who are using LinkedIn Recruiter as their way of finding great talent even before they apply can search by those things. So again, your student is putting on their profile the things that recruiters from different industries will be searching for and be able to find them. So that's really important. All right, so I want to give you a few examples of ways to develop career readiness skills at VCU. So I'm going to focus in on communication as just one example of a career readiness skill that really can be intentionally honed while at VCU. Just a few examples. Working with the VCU Writing Center, working on that written communication in a variety of forms that's available to students year-round. Taking writing-based courses or communications-focused courses. It's got it either right in the description or right in the title, and it's a chance for your student to either challenge themselves or grow a particular skill and get feedback from a faculty member who's invested in their success as well. We have a course here at VCU called Winning Presentations. So perhaps your student feels really comfortable communicating in writing, but not as much maybe communicating in public speaking or giving presentations. That's a way to bridge that type of communication as a skill they can get confident in. We don't want to undersell the value of just reading and writing a lot independently. We have a lot of students who have a passion for that, and it helps them to figure out how they best want to express themselves in different spaces, how to consume different content, how they may want to produce, and what their style is. For those who are unfamiliar, there's a neat tool called Grammarly that your student can add as a plugin on their laptop or on their computer that helps to give feedback the way that spell check does for spelling. It gives feedback as your student is writing on grammar and will give them questions and options and such. It can be supremely helpful even just as a learning and reflection tool. Encouraging your student to think about engaging in public speaking through organizations or events like Toastmasters, TED Talks, or again, their student organization roles and really pushing and challenging themselves in those spaces. We have free access at VCU for students as well as employees to LinkedIn Learning. So they can find and take LinkedIn Learning modules for free on their own time that are shorter than a commitment to a class, for example, on communication, on some of these different nuances that they may want to grow in. And then they can get a little certificate for it through the system. They can track that progress, but then they can also say, you know, I wanted to grow in this skill. I intentionally took LinkedIn Learning modules on this to continue refining that. Practice writing cover letters, getting feedback certainly from career services, one of our offices. Practice interviewing with Big Interview, which is one of our online resources I'm going to share in just a moment. And collaborating with classmates to successfully complete class projects, because again, we know communication is something in action that they may have to work on. How would I communicate in a workplace if something difficult comes up, or we're trying to meet a deadline, or I need some extra support? These are all things they can practice with their peers in some of those situations too. I'm going to pause there. I'm going to look over to the chat real quick just to see if there's any questions from folks before I keep moving. Okay, I think we're in good shape. So I hope that helps to kind of take that communication skill, a word that every student probably says, yeah, I'm good at communication, and really refine it down into, okay, but have they engaged with some of these resources? Can they talk about it in a way that they feel confident about? As parents, as family members, as support for your students, I wanted to give you some questions that you can keep in your back pocket to ask your student about the different career readiness competencies. You maybe have the type of relationship where you like literally want to sit down and go through these questions with them and talk through that as a discussion. You may want to give it to them to just reflect on their own. It's just your way of bridging that distance between maybe what they're learning at school and in the classroom and how you want to support them at home. It may be something that you like one or two of these questions and you weave it into a future dinner conversation or a future phone call. All up to you, but I at least wanted to take it from a theoretical standpoint down to a conversation topic that will really help your student reflect on these particular skills. So for career and self-development, an example might be, what are 3 career interests that you are currently exploring? Who could you connect with at or through VCU for more information and support, to helping them think about what are they interested in career-wise and how can they take that to the next level? A question for communication could be, how do you prefer to communicate with others in academic or work settings? Is there a type of communication style or technique you'd like to get more comfortable or skilled in during your time at VCU? Again, it acknowledges they might have current preferences and they may have things that they could actively work to get more comfortable with. An example of a critical thinking question could be, what is an example of an experience you've had at VCU that boosted your problem solving or analytical skills? What made it interesting or challenging to go through? So it not only is asking about their critical thinking skills, but it's making them do some critical thinking while you're asking the question as well. A question around equity and inclusion. During your time at VCU so far, have you had the opportunity to engage with and learn about people from different backgrounds or cultures other than your own? How would you like to keep doing so intentionally this year? Again, there's a lot of awesome things that go on at VCU, at least in this, space of just exposure and learning. If they don't want to get deeper into that space and maybe are already taking classes or engaged with student organizations or leadership, there's just a lot of great things going on, and we never want to take for granted that we're checking that box and just done with learning in that space. So how can you encourage them to keep that as an active practice? For leadership, you might ask, which of your strengths do you find yourself leaning into the most as a college student, moving towards your goals and making the most of any given class, experience, or semester? So this talks about, their strengths, how they're leaning into those, how they are finding ways to help those shine in different spaces. Professionalism in a work setting, student org, or class project that you're actively involved in. What can people consistently count on you for? Are you getting a sense of what you have a good reputation for in any of those settings? So again, how are they showing up to different spaces? What do people tend to lean on them for? What do they want to be known for? And maybe how might they continue to refine that during their time at VCU? 2 more. So teamwork. When working on a team project or activity, how do you help ensure different viewpoints are heard and taken into consideration? So again, maybe not just being part of the team, but how are they making sure that the team dynamic, the team environment is a good one and is moving forward in a way that, again, they can use as a professional in a variety of spaces. And then last but not least, technology. I alluded to this earlier, but what is a new technology or system that you have had to learn while in college? How did you get better at it? And what advice would you give to someone else just starting out? Giving themselves credit for what they've already learned, how they've gotten up to speed with technology, and then how they could transfer that even if they're learning a new technology in the workplace. So again, just some examples. You may find yourself drawn to one or more of those questions or think about them as reflection tools for your student. So the last portion of our time together today, I want to cover the fact that, overall, our office, VCU Career Services, and truly all the career services units on campus are here to support your student and their career readiness throughout the year. So we want to make sure that we don't conclude this presentation without you knowing about some of the key resources and services that your student can and ideally will be tapping into during their time at VCU. The first is our handshake system. So handshake is the one-stop shop for most everything that we do at VCU Career Services and Business and Engineering Career Services as well. It is the portal that your student already has access to. They're already registered for it as soon as they start classes, to schedule an appointment with a career counselor to have a one-on-one meeting. They can sign up for any of our career events and workshops throughout the year. They can use the system to search for jobs and internships that are actively posted. We have hundreds of new postings in there on a weekly basis. It's really exponential in how it's grown over the past few years. And we're really proud of that. They can use the system just to research employers and get some behind the scenes information, even if they're not ready to apply for things yet. And they can also message certain employers directly through the system. They can apply for those jobs and internships when they're ready and willing to do so. And it's also important for you all to know if your student qualifies for federal work study, all of the federal work study jobs on or off campus can only be accessed and applied to through Handshake at VCU each year. So that's important to know. So get them on Handshake, ask them about Handshake. They should be using this great system. Another resource that we want to make known to families is our Suit Yourself Closet. So we have a year-round resource where students can get free, gently used professional clothing. They can take, it's for free and it's for them to keep. So they can take up to 6 items during each visit. They can visit up to twice a month, and they own those clothes. Again, they don't need to return them in any way. We have accessories as well. Students can now both do appointments and drop-in hours for the Suit Yourself Closet. And we have both a Monroe Park campus space in the Commons in our primary office, and we have one in Huntington Student Center on MCB campus as well. Oop, there we go. It's trying to take me to the link. Let me get us onto our slides. There we go. Another one that a lot of students had asked about so much when we came back from COVID, being kind of away and fully remote, that we have ramped up in the past couple of years to meet that demand is professional headshots. So we offer for free for students throughout the year, appointments that they can set up with our marketing communications team to take a new professional headshot. They can use that for LinkedIn. They can use that if they're giving presentations, perhaps for their portfolio. But that's something, again, through that handshake system, they look for the appointment type professional headshots, and they can make that with our team. I referenced earlier a tool called Big Interview. So this is something that is 24/7 available for your student to engage in a virtual interview practice platform. So they can, you can see this is kind of the homepage dashboard here, but they can either come up with their own question set. They can find top 10 questions, certain industry tracks, and they can practice. So it has them, it asks the question on the screen, it records them, it lets them watch them back. They can also invite people to review them on that, whether that's their career counselor, an advisor, or others. But it's, again, a great resource for students to practice interviewing even before they might come in for a mock interview one-to-one with our team members, that they can access 24/7. We have employer connection opportunities throughout the year. We have our very last career fair of the academic year for current students coming up next week. So for those parents and families that are on the call today or watching this, please encourage your students to attend. It is career, it is internship, part-time. It's really a catch-all as we end the school year, all industries, and it is right in the Commons, 2 different spaces within the Commons for your students to attend. So we hope that they will. That is mostly the end of my content today before I open up for any questions. Really, at the end of this, I hope that you learned something new. I hope that you got something that you can utilize either as you reflect, as you engage with your student, as you encourage them over the next few weeks, months, and years. But also, please, I would ask that you encourage your student to connect with us. It's never too early or too late. We have academic year drop-ins on Tuesday through Friday in the Commons from 11 to 2. We also have year-round appointments, including in-person, Zoom, and phone options throughout the week. We have an active social media presence, a great website with lots of free and available resources that you can also check out as well. And your student can reach us by phone too. Last but not least, we do have a page on our website just for parents and families that's got some of this great information in it in one place. So I encourage you to go to our website and go to information for and drop down to parents and families. So with that, I want to open for any questions that y'all may have. Feel free to either unmute, raise hand,